Why is it almost impossible to get a digital nomad visa for Colombia? Now, this visa was introduced in 2022 with the aim of attracting foreign investment, global entrepreneurs, people who have tech jobs and can work remotely, etc. And yeah, you either got a visa for 1 or 2 years. It was aimed at kind of opening Colombia's economy up so they could get investment, put it on the map, that kind of thing. And the criteria was set pretty low. It was billed as an extremely easy visa to get. I think the monthly minimum wage requirements now for 2026 is 5,200,000 pesitos. You just need 3 months bank statements, passport with more than 6 months on it, maybe proof of your remote work, that kind of thing. And so basically it was put forward to the world as an extremely easy visa to get, no problems, no questions asked, that kind of thing. And now, and for the past year or so, the reality could not be any more different to that, and barely anyone gets approved. I've heard someone say that if you are a guy living in Medellín, and especially if you're from the United States, it's almost a 100% guaranteed decline, or kind of they ask you to reapply, because basically the government are correlating the digital nomad visas to sex tourism, bad behavior in Medellín, Colombia, that kind of thing. And why is that? Why is this visa so difficult to get now / impossible? Well, if you think about it, they introduced it in 2022 to put Colombia on the map, to get foreign investment, to get tech entrepreneurs coming to Colombia, that kind of thing. And basically after they did that, the floodgates opened, it got overused, it got abused, it got kind of mistreated. Everyone was applying for digital nomad visas, seemingly everyone was getting approved, and I think they just accepted too many people basically. And so yeah, I do think their suspicions are correct, and this visa does correlate to bad behavior, especially in Medellín, people coming here, the kind of passport bro lifestyle, people who are not integrating into the local community, they're not behaving well, they're not basically being good guests in Colombia. And so in some ways I think the government are quite right to kind of really shut down this visa, because yeah, it was getting abused. So I've actually had personal experience for this before I arrived in Colombia, and during my first few months here I applied for the digital nomad visa I think a total of 5 times, which is crazy. Stupidly, I didn't use a solicitor or a lawyer for the process, which I would do differently now. So anyone applying for any sort of visa, I think in Colombia, I think you need to use a local lawyer, someone who knows what they're doing, simply because if anything, it just makes your application look a lot more professional. There's no kind of missed off documents. The lawyer obviously has experience in doing it, etc. So if anything, it's just kind of to show that you're kind of playing the game, if you like. But yes, in my experience with the digital nomad visa applications, they started asking for things not originally on the list. For example, a classic kind of denial reason now is they say your business or your work is not of any economic benefit to Colombia. And basically the agent who is looking at your application will use his power of discretionary kind of decision to decline or basically ask you to reapply for the visa, stating that your work or your business doesn't really provide any economic benefit to Colombia. And interestingly, this was put forward as one of the positives of the visa back in 2022. It basically said, look, we don't want you to rely on the local economy to provide income. We just basically want your money. We want you to come here. We want you to eat at restaurants, contribute money to the local economy, etc. And now they're kind of going 180 degrees and saying, oh no, we need your business to contribute to the Colombian economy. And basically they've just shut it down. This is their kind of legal way of saying we don't want people using this visa. Because also remember that this visa is a visitor visa, and these visas are not designed for people to live here long term. Look, you can just check out the doggies, look. Little doggies protecting this house here. You can probably hear them yapping away. But yes, these visitor visas come under way more scrutiny compared to the migrant visas, the M visas, because everything to do with them is just a little bit more of a grey area. With the M visa, like the investor visa, for example, or the marriage visa, like you submit all the documents, they just check that, you know, the property you bought is over the amount, or the business that you invested in is legit and you pay the money, etc. And you have all the stamps from the Republic Bank of Colombia and everything's all legalized, and then they give you the visa. Whereas the visitor ones, because you're only here as a visitor, after the visa ends, basically you get kicked out of the country, they come under way more scrutiny because they're not deemed as a long-term option, which is true. They are only visitor visas. So one thing they're doing with the digital nomad visa applications right now is they are asking for excessive amounts of documentation from you to be apostilled, to be notarized, that kind of thing. And I've heard some stories of people just getting asked again and again and again for more documents. It's like they want a proof of your qualifications. They want a proof that you're legit for the job. They want a proof from your employer. They want proof from your line manager, like letters in Spanish, officially translated, apostilled. And some people have just said, look, after the 5th time of them asking for more documentation, I just said, forget it, you know what, I'm not even going to apply for this visa, I'm going to go for another one. So yeah, that's basically them kind of soft declining people and kind of like soft putting people onto other visa options. It's basically like a polite no, isn't it? If they just keep on asking for more and more and more documentation, that's basically just them kicking the can down the road, hoping that you give up before they do. And I think unless you work for like a big company, so think Google, Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, one of these companies which are like easily Googleable, for example, then I think you're going to have a real hard time getting this visa, because they're just going to keep asking you basically an unlimited amount of questions to do with your application, and they're only going to give you a 1-year visa anyway, which isn't, in my opinion, is probably not even worth it. And the problem is with visitor visas is they don't count towards your kind of residency days and years to be a long-term resident in Colombia. So you could be a digital nomad visa or even a visitor visa holder for 2 years, and then after that it's just like those 2 years didn't even exist. And if you want to go to another visa, like an investor visa or everything, you're starting from square one. So basically, if you want to build a life in Colombia long term, which some people do, a lot of people do actually, because it's such a great country to live in, then the M visas are better. And one thing I've learned from living in Colombia is Colombians are smart. So what they're doing is they're basically filtering out the non-die-hard Colombia supporters to go to other countries or look for other options. And also for those die-hard Colombia fans like myself who really want to build a life here, they're pushing them onto the M visas, basically the investor visa, where you either have to invest in a company or buy a property so that you can stay long-term in Colombia. So for example, a digital nomad who has a remote job or a tech job wants to live in Colombia, but they're basically getting declined and they're getting asked to reapply all the time when they apply for this digital nomad visa. After a few tries, they'll probably just pick another country. They'll go to Thailand, they'll go to another country in Latin America. It will kind of, if they're not real big Colombia fans, they're just going to go to another country, Bali, Indonesia, that kind of thing. I don't think this is a good thing. As a country, you only really want proper fans, I guess, living in your country who like the culture, who want to integrate, for example, want to learn Spanish, who love everything about Colombia. You kind of want these types of tourists or guests or foreigners in your country. You don't really want the other type. That being said, you can convert people, right? So like my first trip to Colombia back in 2024, I had no idea I would end up living here on that first trip, but I was like, look, Colombia seems cool. Loads of my Colombian friends in London have suggested I go, let's go. And so I was kind of like converted into being a die-hard Colombia fan, but I didn't start off at one, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of both sides to that argument, but overall I think this is a good play for Colombia. And so the people who are die-hard Colombia fans who have been getting their digital nomad visa declined will get pushed onto other visas, and this is exactly what happened to me. I ended up buying a property to get the visa here. So if you think about that from a financial kind of country perspective, I pumped in $200,000 into the Colombian economy in order to get my investor visa to stay here long term. So economically speaking, that is a way better deal for Colombia because they got $200,000 out of me. If you can get enough foreigners to do that, enough foreigners to buy property and everything, buy properties from local Colombians, that helps to grow the economy, right? Yes, people will say that's gentrification. Yes, it does push up property prices, but the main beneficiaries of that are local Colombian property owners, and economic growth tends to benefit everyone or most people. And there are other types of visas, yes, like student visas or work visas, but these are, I don't think these are very compatible for long-term living in Colombia. Like the student visa is only for 6 months, then you have to leave. Then the work visa, you have to actually work for a Colombian company. There's a load of paperwork. You'll probably be earning in pesos, so you kind of lose that economic advantage as a foreigner living here. So basically, they do push people onto the investor visa, which is a smart play from the Colombian authorities, honestly, because that helps to boost the economy of Colombia. So there you have it, guys. That is everything to do with the digital nomad visa. Try not to get killed while crossing this road. This crossing is absolutely mental, by the way. It's like 3 main roads crossing it. But yeah, honestly, I would not be surprised if they didn't discontinue this visa. I think the only reason, or the main reason they don't discontinue this visa is because it would kind of affect Colombia's standing on the international stage. Like they need to have this visa option so they can say to other countries, no, look, your citizens can come to Colombia, they can just work remotely, it's all good, there's no problem or anything. If they officially terminated this visa, other countries accepting Colombians into their countries, which by the way is a lot, 5 million Colombians live abroad, potentially they would get affected, that whole kind of tit for tat thing. So yeah, I think that's the only reason why Colombia doesn't officially close this digital nomad visa, but who knows, maybe in the future they will officially do that. Have a good one, speak soon.